It's 6 o'clock on a June morning, and I'm standing in the middle of my garden holding a neon pink plastic hoe I bought last week for $14.99. Next to me sits my tool shed, packed with dozens of bottles, boxes, and miracle gadgets I've collected over the years. And you know the funny part? My garden this year looks no better than it did last year. Comment one word below. Are you using Willow water to root your cuttings, or are you still buying synthetic rooting powder? I'd bet 90% of you have never even heard of it. If that's you, type never so I know how much to explain later. Let me show you what's actually sitting in that shed. A bottle of rooting hormone powder, $5.68. A self-watering grow kit, $12.99. A bottle of neem oil fungicide spray, $9.47. A bag of fertilizer pellets, $11. A pack of plastic plant clips, $6. Add it up and you're looking at $60, $70, sometimes close to $100 a year just on starter gardening products. And here's the part that really gets me. Half of these things sit on a shelf after one use because the bottle says it treats 500 cuttings and I only have 6 tomato plants. I paid full price for a product designed for a commercial greenhouse to use on a backyard garden bed. That's not gardening, that's just shopping with dirt on your hands. Now, I want you to sit with this. Right outside my fence, growing wild along the creek, there's a willow tree. Nobody planted it, nobody waters it, nobody pays for it. And inside its branches is the exact same rooting compound that's inside that $5 bottle of powder in your shed, the one made by a lab, bottled in plastic, and shipped across the country to sell to you. One free branch from a tree most people walk past every single day can replace that bottle completely. My name is John Yoder. I am Amish, and I farm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. My wife Esther learned this trick from her mother, who learned it from her grandmother, back when nobody had money to spend on a garden center, let alone a rooting hormone. They just had a creek, a willow tree, and a mason jar. But this isn't just an old family story. The University of California Botanical Garden has documented that willow branches contain a natural auxin called indole-3 acetic acid, the same type of compound that reprograms cells at the base of a cutting to start growing roots. Master Gardener associations affiliated with university extension programs have written about this for years. So when I tell you this works, I'm not just trusting what Esther's grandmother said. I'm trusting what the lab confirms too. Tip 1. Willow water instead of rooting hormone powder. The science is simple. Young willow branches contain salicylic acid and indole-3 acetic acid, two compounds that signal plant cells to stop growing as stems and start growing as roots. That's the entire job of a commercial rooting hormone, just done by nature instead of a chemist. Here's exactly how to make it. Cut a handful of young, green willow shoots into 1-inch pieces. Fill a jar with these pieces and cover them completely with water, either room temperature or boiling, your choice. Let it steep for 24 to 48 hours. Strain out the twigs, and what's left is a pale amber liquid, your homemade rooting hormone. Take your plant cutting and let the base soak in this liquid for several hours before you plant it. You can refrigerate the leftover willow water and use it within about 2 months. Now, here's the onoscope. Willow water is not as concentrated or as fast-acting as a commercial synthetic hormone with a measured percentage of IBA on the label. If you're a commercial grower trying to root 500 cuttings at once with guaranteed timing, the lab-made product will likely still outperform it. But for the average backyard gardener rooting a few tomato suckers, herb cuttings, or rose clippings, willow water gets the job done at zero cost, and you're not introducing a synthetic chemical into your soil. Tip 2. Crushed eggshells and used coffee grounds instead of specialty fertilizer. The science here is about what your soil is actually missing. Most garden soil that produces weak, leggy plants is lacking calcium and nitrogen, two of the most basic building blocks for healthy cell walls and leaf growth. Crushed eggshells are mostly calcium carbonate. Used coffee grounds, once they've been brewed, are roughly 2% nitrogen by weight and also contain potassium and phosphorus. Here's the action. Save your eggshells, rinse them, let them dry, then crush them into a fine powder, almost like sand. Work about a tablespoon of this powder into the soil around the base of each tomato or pepper plant when you transplant it. Separately, take your used coffee grounds, let them dry out completely so they don't clump or mold, and sprinkle a thin layer, no more than a quarter-inch, on top of the soil around your plants, then lightly mix it in. The honest scope matters here, too. Eggshells break down very slowly, sometimes taking months to release their calcium. So this is a long-term soil builder, not a quick fix for a plant that's already showing signs of calcium deficiency like blossom end rot on tomatoes right now. And coffee grounds are mildly acidic before they break down, so don't pile them on plants that prefer alkaline soil, like lavender or many herbs. Use both as a slow, steady supplement, not a replacement for knowing what your soil actually needs. Tip 3. Diluted white vinegar instead of commercial herbicide. The science is about pH and cell disruption. White vinegar is acetic acid, typically around 5% concentration in the bottle from your kitchen. At that strength, it draws moisture out of the leaf tissue of young, soft weeds, essentially drying them out from the surface down. Here's the action. Mix 1 cup of white vinegar with a tablespoon of dish soap, which helps the mixture stick to the leaf instead of rolling off, and spray it directly onto the leaves of young weeds on a sunny day. Avoid getting it on the soil if you can, and definitely avoid your actual vegetable plants. And here's the honest scope, because this one really matters. Household vinegar at 5% acetic acid only kills the above-ground leaves of young, soft weeds. It does almost nothing to mature weeds with established root systems, and it will not touch the roots of perennial weeds like dandelions, which will simply grow back. It's also not selective, meaning it will damage or kill any plant it touches, including your vegetables. This is a spot treatment for small weeds in cracks and pathways, not a solution for an overgrown garden bed. If this kind of thinking, using what you already have instead of buying something new, is something you want more of, that's exactly what we built the Amish home saving system and community for. It's not just about gardening. It's about lowering your utility bills, wasting less food, stretching your grocery budget further, and learning to fix things around the house yourself. And inside, you can ask Esther and me questions directly. Let's do the math on just these 3 swaps. Skipping the rooting hormone powder saves you somewhere between $5 and $13 a year, depending on the brand. Skipping a basic bag of fertilizer and instead using eggshells and coffee grounds you're already throwing away saves another $10 to $15 a year. And skipping a bottle of commercial herbicide for spot weeding saves roughly $8 to $12 a year. On the low end, that's about $25 a year. For a household that was buying the full lineup, the rooting kits, the self-watering setups, the specialty sprays, the savings can run closer to $80 to $100 a year. Over 20 years of gardening, that's $1,600 to $2,000 just sitting in your pocket instead of in a shopping cart. And here's the reframe. There is no profit for any company in telling you that a willow branch from your creek bank works as well as their $5 bottle for your backyard needs. There's a lot of profit in selling you a different colorful bottle for every single problem your garden could possibly have. So here's your homework for this week. Go find a willow tree. Most towns have one along a creek, a pond, or even in a park, and cut a few young green branches about the thickness of a pencil. Cut them into 1-inch pieces, drop them in a jar of water, and let them sit for a day or 2. The next time you take a cutting from a plant you want to propagate, soak the base in that jar before you plant it. That's it. No purchase required. Before you go, I want to ask you something. What's a trick your grandmother or grandfather used in the garden that you don't see anyone doing anymore? Write it in the comments. These little pieces of knowledge disappear fast once nobody's writing them down, and I'd love for this to be a place where they get remembered. Next time, we're going to take this same mindset into your kitchen, looking at how our families used to preserve a summer's harvest without a single freezer bag or store-bought canning kit. For now, just remember this. The willow by the creek has been quietly doing its work for longer than any of us have been alive, asking for nothing in return. Sometimes the oldest things in the landscape are still the best teachers, if we just take the time to notice them.